please hit that subscribe button.
Hey everybody.
Better suited to win the Stanley Cup this season. If you are new to the channel, Washington Capitals, the Boston Bruins.
Locked on and he scored! And we're live. Hey everybody. So it's been quite a while since I've done a Hockey 101 video, but with it being now into the off season, figured now is a good time to get back into this again. And today I want to talk about something that came up quite a bit during the playoffs the last couple of months, and that a lot of people were asking me about, and a lot of new people to hockey really had a lot of questions about and didn't fully understand the rules, and that is high sticking and the penalty of high sticking, because it is one of the somewhat more complicated ones in the NHL, especially if you are new to hockey and don't know the rules and haven't played it and are just kind of learning the game. It can be a complicated one. There's different, penalty lengths for different fouls. It's like, it does get confusing for sure. So I wanted to talk about high sticking today, just kind of go through the rule, go through the penalties, go through what's a minor, what's a double minor, what's worse than that, things like that, and just hopefully give you guys that are new to hockey a better understanding of what high sticking is and, how long the different penalties are and like what warrants different levels of penalties and things like that. So before I begin, I just ask that you please hit that subscribe button if you're new and give this video a thumbs up. Both of those things really help out a lot and are much appreciated. But let's get into it here. High sticking is rule number 60 in the NHL rulebook. So if you want to actually go fully read through the high sticking rule, I suggest doing that. You can just look up NHL rulebook on Google. It will come right up. You can get a PDF version of the NHL rulebook for this past season. They put out a new one in every season, and just look at rule 60. And it tells you high sticking, but I'm going to go through the basics of it for you here. Basically, a high stick is when, pretty much when you hit someone above the shoulders with your stick. That's pretty much the normal high sticking penalty. If you hit someone in the neck, the head, the face with your stick, it is generally a high sticking penalty. There is one exception to that. I'm going to talk about that at the end. I want to go through the penalties first, but then we're going to talk about the exception at the end. Most high sticking calls are a regular minor penalty, 2 minutes in the penalty box, and that's it. A regular minor penalty, and that is when any contact made by a stick of an opponent above the shoulders. So you hit your opponent above the shoulders with your stick. It's prohibited and a minor penalty shall be imposed. So that's just a normal 2-minute minor for high sticking penalty. That is what you usually see. Next, we have double minors, and this is when it's a 4-minute penalty, and we see this a decent amount as well. And that is when a player strikes an opponent above the shoulders with their stick and injury results. So that basically means a lot of times it's looked for as blood. If it draws blood, it's 4 minutes. If it doesn't, it is a 2-minute penalty. Now, that is not officially in the rule book, written anywhere, but that's generally how it's called from a practical standpoint. What it really says is, obviously, if there's blood, then there is an injury. So it results in injury if there's blood drawn. So that's a double minor. So if you ever see blood drawn from a high sticking penalty, it's supposed to be a double minor penalty. If it's not, the refs are getting it wrong. Or other injuries as well. The other thing, a lot of people say it's only going to be a double minor if blood is drawn. That is not true. Any sort of injury caused by rule would warrant a double minor penalty. So if it causes some sort of injury, maybe a cracked tooth, maybe a welt starts to form or something like that, where there is no blood, but it still caused an injury, that is still a double minor penalty. So if a double minor is called, then that is 4 minutes in the penalty box, and it's just a double minor penalty, which is usually 2. There is no major penalty for high sticking. This is important because this did come up a little bit in conversation. I remember during one of the streams during the playoffs. There is no major penalty for high sticking. The next penalty after a double minor would be a match penalty. And if you don't know what a match penalty is, that is probably going to be the next episode I do of this Hockey 101 series, is talking about match penalties. But essentially, you are automatically kicked out of the game, and a match penalty is given pretty much its intent to injure, when you deliberately try to injure an opponent. Now, it can be given for many different things other than just high sticking. Pretty much anything deliberately trying to injure an opponent can result in a match penalty, but it can be given for high sticking as well. And that is when, in the opinion of the referee, a player attempts to or deliberately injures an opponent while using their stick as a weapon above the shoulders. So basically, if you hit someone in the head on purpose, above, with your stick, that's going to be a match penalty. It essentially is stick swinging incidents. To put it really simply, I'm making this more complicated than it has to be. Stick swinging incidents, or any incident of clubbing your opponent in the head with a stick on purpose, trying to, obviously cause injury. If you're doing that, that will result in a match penalty, and you are automatically ejected from the game and very likely to face a lengthy suspension as well. Match penalties almost always result in suspensions from the league afterwards as well. So match penalties are really bad. Like, you do not want to be getting match penalties. But those are the three level of penalties for high sticking. You have a normal minor penalty, whether it's accidental or deliberate. You just hit someone in the head with your stick and it doesn't cause any noticeable injury, you get a regular minor penalty. If you hit someone in the head with a stick, intentional or unintentionally, intent doesn't really matter here. Even if you do it by accident, it's still a penalty. And you cause noticeable injury, whether that's drawing blood, cracking a tooth, causing bruises or welts, or any sort of noticeable injury to the opponent, that's a double minor penalty. It's 4 minutes in the penalty box. And lastly, you have a match penalty situation, which, like I said, is usually a stick swinging incident. That will result in an automatic ejection from the game and likely a suspension coming very, very soon after. We have seen match penalties for high sticking in recent times. We've seen, obviously, the most famous one was back from the late 90s. I forget exactly what year it was. But it was Marty McSorley clubbing Donald Brashear in the head with his stick. If you don't know that, if you don't remember that, or you weren't alive yet for that was a while ago now, just look up Marty McSorley, Donald Brashear, and it will be the first thing that comes up. It's one of the worst cheap shots in NHL history, but it was basically Marty McSorley clubbing Donald Brashear in the head with his stick. In more recent times, we've seen Radko Gudas get suspended for stick swinging incidents. And I remember one, I believe, was against Matthew Perreault of the Winnipeg Jets, where he clubbed him in the head. Gus Nyquist, a few years ago, when he was still with the Detroit Red Wings, basically speared Jared Spurgeon of the Minnesota Wild in the face with his stick. He got a match penalty for that. Duncan Keith, I think it was on Jeff Carter. Don't hold me to that. I don't remember off the top of my head. I think it was Jeff Carter, though, but I remember Duncan Keith swung his stick at someone right in the neutral zone a few years ago, and he got a match penalty and suspended for that. So it does happen. It's not common, but it does happen from time to time where you see, major high sticking incidents that do result in match penalties. But most of the time, it's going to be a minor penalty or a double minor penalty for causing an injury. Now I want to talk about the exception, because there is one exception to the high sticking rule, and that is a player is permitted accidental contact in opponent if the act is committed as a normal wind-up or follow-through of a shooting motion. So if you are shooting, passing the puck, dumping it in, anything like that where it's a normal play on the puck, but you just happen to accidentally hit someone in the face, either through your backswing or your follow-through of the shot, it is not a penalty. And this did come up in the playoffs this year in the second round when the Philadelphia Flyers were playing the New York Islanders. Claude Giroux was dumping the puck into the offensive zone, and he caught Matt Barzal right up above the eye with his stick on the follow through of that dump in, and he was not given a penalty on the play, which is the correct call. A lot of Islanders fans were really upset about that. They were like, why isn't Giroux getting a high sticking penalty? Because it was the follow through of a shooting motion of a play on the puck. He was dumping the puck into the zone. When he followed the shot through, it accidentally caught Matt Barzal up above the eye. That is not a penalty. That is the one exception to the high sticking rule, where is if you're following through on a shot or winding up for a shot, making a play on the puck, then it's not a penalty if you hit someone in the head with your stick. However, it has to be considered a normal wind-up or follow-through of a normal shooting motion. If the puck is up in the air or the puck is bouncing and you're wildly swinging at it, then that's not going to be considered a normal wind-up or follow-through, and you still can get a penalty. But if it's a normal play where you're just shooting the puck or shooting it into the zone or passing it to a teammate and your follow-through or wind-up catches someone accidentally, then that is not a penalty, and that's what happened in that situation between Claude Giroux and Matt Barzal, and that's why a penalty was not called on the play, and that is a correct call from the referees there. So, that is pretty much what I've got for high sticking, guys. Hopefully this clears things up a little bit, or any questions that you had about it were answered. I'll do a quick summary here. Most penalties are a 2-minute minor if they cause noticeable injury, whether that's blood or some other type of noticeable clear injury. It's a double minor. It's a 4-minute penalty. There is no high sticking major penalty, but it would go right to a match penalty, which is an automatic ejection from the game and probable suspension coming, and those are for basically stick swinging incidents, clubbing someone with a stick on purpose and deliberately trying to hurt them. And there is one exception to the rule. It is the follow through of a shooting motion or the wind up of a shooting motion. That is not a penalty if you accidentally hit someone in the process of shooting the puck or moving the puck like that in what's considered a normal shot type motion. So that's pretty much it for high sticking. Hopefully you have a good understanding now, and that explains things a bit more clearly for each and every one of you. And hopefully this video was helpful. But with that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, links to our Patreon, merchandise store, and donation links are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.